Now, do you think any of these guys were guests on Fantasy Island?
Yes.
Not the Fantasy Island. Yes.
You mean
I
there's
like
a
that
real
because-
Fantasy Island?
No, he's talking about
that.
He's talking about the other one. Talking about Epstein.
The new one, yeah.
Yeah.
Epstein's
Brian
Island.
Epstein.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
I
what
think
did you?
Jeffrey Epstein.
I should Google that. I should correlate. It would take me a minute, but I should correlate these and see if any of these guys were on the guest log for Jeffrey Epstein's Island, because I think it's possible.
They never released that.
Does anybody believe that Courtney Love blew Ted Nugent when she was 12?
I believe it's possible, but it's unlikely.
What did Ted say?
Ted, he's a flat denial on that one.
Okay. Well, so Ted's definitely done some questionable shit. And I didn't even read the Ted Nugent thing from the story. I read enough to see that it wasn't the one that I actually had heard about.
How about the lyrics to Jailbait? I'm just going to leave it at that.
Jailbait.
Well, I mean,
by Ted Nugent.
Oh, sorry. I missed that one.
Hold
on.
You've never heard Jailbait?
I'll look it up after this.
The lyrics, particularly the last part of the lyrics, where he basically a cop busts him with an underage girl, so he offers the underage girl to the cop.
Yeah.
Did the cop take it?
And I believe the age that he references in the song, just like R. Kelly did in his tape, was 13. Well, R. Kelly's girl was 14.
Okay, so
in that encounter.
So Gene Simmons has a Kiss song on Love Gun called Christine 16.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, he was just patterned after Chuck Berry, I guess. So, and Gene's never been accused of messing with any underage girls or whatever, but he had a song.
Yeah, but you really think though in that moment that Gene was carding?
No, absolutely not. It was a different time. It was a different time, and the reason a lot of these people didn't get busted is because it was a different time.
Yeah, it was a very different time, and people actually knew how to keep their fucking mouth.
Yep.
Now, this is something I witnessed, is that there's these two girls that grew up around me and my sister that were super hot, Stephanie and Angie Hicks, and some people in the podcast knew who they were. And as young girls, they were pretty hot. I went and seen Van Halen on the 1984 tour in Huntington, West Virginia, and I think the opening act was the Autograph. I don't remember, but anyway. So at the end of the show, when the lights come on and stuff, a guy come back from said he was with the show and asked if Steph and Angie would like to spend some time with the band, and if my sister's listening, she could corroborate this, right? And my sister's like, I don't know if y'all want to do that, right? And they're like, I don't know. And Angie was real shy, but she was super hot, right? Beyond belief, I can't even describe it, right? And then they begged it off, but I mean, they could have went back here with Van Halen. What do you think would have happened to them? I mean, Angie was so hot that when she walked through the halls of our high school, right, that people ran into lockers, tripped over things. You know what I'm saying? It was, you just had to see it, right? But
Diamond Dave would have been on that, right?
They've been on that hard and heavy. I know it. And they both had great tans. They looked like they was from California. They
probably looked 17 or 18, right?
Well, the way Angie was built, I mean, just Steph too was pretty well stacked, and you would have thought that they were fresh faced. So I don't know if I'd have thought they was in their 20s, but they certainly looked built like grown women. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it'd been hard to tell that, right? And I met when I come home from the Army, right, the first time I was in Nicholasville, and I was running down the street in my car, and there was some girls walking down the street, and they hollered at me and said, hey, what are you doing? Right, so I turned around, and I didn't know them, and I looked at them, and they was pretty cute, and one of them looked young, and the other looked older than the other, and the one that was older than the other started talking to me, and I said, how old are you, right? And she goes, oh, I'm 19, and I'm like, oh, what about your friend? She goes, well, I'm only 16, and she goes, well, take me for a ride in your Mustang. So I cruised her around Nicholasville for a minute, right? And got to know her a little bit. I said, I don't know, man, something ain't right about this. So I took her back to where I picked her up at, and which was like a parking lot everybody hung out at, and dropped the girl off, and I went home, right? Well, anyway, a couple weeks later, I was at my friend's house, and this woman was there, and she showed me pictures of her kids. It was her daughter, April, and she was 14 years old.
Oh, Lord.
Woo!
So the
Was
girl,
he
they
was
You
straight
out there
faced?
riding around in the Mustang.
riding around the Mustang. I did. I didn't hit it though. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because I kind of knew, but she was well stacked. You would have thought that she was a grown woman. I would say that,
No,
right?
no, 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 no. We got to shut it down. Here, I'm canceling this conversation.
So we're
All
canceling.
right,
But
so
Ted Nugent, they will definitely cancel him. He's not
No,
going to get no
he wrote
protection.
a song about it. He wrote a fucking song about it,
so
and the
that
song also helps is helping the police with some 13-year-old tale.
all right.
That,
So
hey, if that's not pro cop, I don't know what is.
there's more to Nugent than just that song, though. So I know y'all
Oh yeah,
remember Patti Smith. Is that her name?
Yes.
That she sang "Because the Night
Yep.
Belongs." Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Ted and her ran into each other in a radio show one time, and Ted decided that he was just being Ted. He basically told her, "Oh, we knew you were coming. We could smell you we could smell you like 20 minutes ago."
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell that meant, but anyway, he grabbed her arm at some point, decided, yeah, she wants me, and it didn't go so well. There's actually
Damn.
footage of it. You can go find the audio of this. It's out there.
I gotta
she,
find that.
And she basically said,
yeah.
"Get your fucking hands off of me." And yeah, it was an odd moment.
Yeah.
And that exists.
Yeah, you don't touch people.
No.
So do they like even Donald Trump, the stuff he's been accused of, right? Do people like that just believe they can do whatever the fuck they want?
Well, I mean, and again, that's kind of at the root of what we're talking about with some of these cases, like again with the R. Kelly case, people that are in a position of power, Harvey Weinstein. You don't get
get
much
away
more
with it.
Hollywood powerful than Harvey fucking Weinstein.
The problem is they get away with it so often, probably during the course of their life, is that they begin to believe they're invincible.
Well, and again, and that's what we've seen with a lot of these cases, and that's why it's very, in this day and age, it's very especially when you have a situation that only involves two people and they're both of consenting adult age, and there's some chitter chatter about maybe there was a possible this, that, and the other, and it didn't go over so hot, and the next thing you know, the person is accusing the other person of something more nefarious than a relationship that went sour. And there are one of my personal favorite bands, particularly recently, has been Swans, which is a noise rock outfit out of New York, particularly active in the 80s and the 90s, but they're still releasing music to this day. Their lead single, Michael Gyro, who is also runs the record label Young God Records that they've released music on over these years, and they have a huge cult following all over the world. Recently collaborated with a female musician. Recorded several albums with her and with other people. There's other women there and other men there, and this big giant room full of people playing music and stuff. And apparently there was a late night dinner, and they're hanging out as friends, and they go back to the apartment and they drinking a little bit of wine. They decide to get a little kissy for a moment, and he stops the encounter because he, kind of had a boo thing at that moment, either a live-in girlfriend or a wife, I can't remember. And it suddenly blows up into this great big story about how he had actually used his position to blah, blah, this and this, that, and the other. What actually happened once we get to the story from the people behind the scene. And this man is, in the middle of a tour, planning an album, all this other stuff, and is kind of enjoying a third act in his career as a cult artist and getting to play at all these fancy, wonderful places all over the world. Suddenly his whole career got put into a tailspin by this, what is now proven to be possibly a false narrative by this woman. That is much different than what, but at the same time, it's cases like that negate and throw a lot of shade on these legit cases of grown ass men, going out and picking up little girls. I mean, 13 and 14-year-old, that's a little girl.
I'm pretty sure
I'm sorry, as a grown man, I can't get excited about that. I just can't. I'm sorry. I don't understand that mindset. Thank God I'm not of that, of that mindset.
Steven Tyler's name come up at some point, right?
Steven Tyler has also been in the news recently because some recent memoirs have painted a pretty nasty picture of I hate to use the word relationship, but a young lady that he had gotten a hold of years ago. I believe she was 16
Yep.
and he even got her pregnant and was, kind of doing coke and his own thing in the middle of her uncomfortable pregnancy, and then eventually he dumped her off when he got too old for her, or when she
Wasn't
got
he?
too old for him.
Didn't he get custody of her?
He did, in order to be able to legally be able to
Take her across the state line?
take her back to the house and keep her. And unlike Jimmy Page, who just threw the girl in the back of the car, he actually had to adopt her so he could, I think, travel out of the country or something like that.
That's kind of what Elvis did, but Elvis had his dad do it, which was a lot more classy. Just think about it.
It is. It is. Elvis was a classy guy, though. Out of all these guys that have popped up on this list, Elvis at least, was careful to tip them a little money because these were all poor girls from the edge of town. Yep. Always put $100 on the nightstand.
I don't know about Priscilla. I don't know if she's a girl.
No, Priscilla actually. That was he had to do a lot of work on her over the years when he met her when she was 14 years old.
Yeah,
I think about 13 or 14. I think she was 13. The girl that Elvis had knocked up. Excuse me, not knocked up, but he had. He took her backstage and offered to kiss her in a more grown-up way. And Jackie's mother kind of popped up in the middle of it. No, don't you be kissing that man. And, of course, his relationship with Priscilla, which, I'm sorry, man. I mean, a grown-ass man who's a big, giant, huge movie star meets a 13-year-old girl and keeps in touch with her. That's great. We know what that we have a term for that now,
Yeah,
Now, if you're Elvis, you could have any woman you want. That's what blew my mind. I mean,
but no, he didn't want women though. I mean, and that's Elvis wasn't from New York City. Now,
nope.
About the only girls you had were the 4 or 5 that lived in a 100-mile radius from the 9 farms in the town there.
But Elvis, he's beloved by a lot of people. But I mean, they give him a pass where others haven't, right? So what's the requirements to get the pass?
Well, because the requirements is that you do it like Elvis and you do it all nice and legal like Steven Tyler did. You do it in a way where Ted Nugent. Well, yeah, Ted Nugent. Yeah. I mean, he wrote a song about it, but
no, he adopted a 17-year-old girl so that she could
that's because he learned shit when he was younger, right?
But some of these guys have got.
I'm listening.
I'm just saying some of these guys have got to pass and others haven't. But Michael Jackson settled out of court for $120 million, but compared to what he had, that probably wasn't a whole lot. I mean, it'd be like if you had 10 grand in the bank and you took a quarter of it, I'd still have 7,500. Well, that'd be a big hit. But when you go to 750 million, then you might get by. So
my favorite story on this list. Can I go ahead and preview that real quick?
You may.
Charlie Parker. Who is absolutely just the saxophone. I mean, he's Eddie Van Halen of saxophone players. Just a true jazz icon. Miles Davis told a story, and Miles is a very highly educated, world-traveled man. So, usually when Miles spoke or when Miles gave an interview, people perked up and listened because usually he had some things to say. He lived a very interesting life and had some very dark corners of his own. But he had claimed that one time it was sharing a taxi with Charlie Parker, and Charlie was high on that boy, heroin. Charlie had a prostitute with him and basically just grabbed her by the back of the head and forced her head down into his lap She started giving oral sex in the back of the taxi with Miles Davis sitting next to them, and he started eating some chicken and drinking some whiskey, according to
While that
them,
was happening. Wow.
while this woman is giving him head. Miles objected to it, and when Miles objected to it, Charlie said, "Well, turn your head then and don't look," and kept on rolling.
Damn.
That's my favorite story. That's the most Charles Barkley-esque of all these stories that we're telling
So
here.
when did that happen?
Oh gosh, that would have probably happened. If I had to guess, probably in the 50s. Yeah, the 50s, 60s.
Yeah, see,
That was that was at the height of both of their careers.
the police didn't even know what to do about some shit like that.
No.
The police never even heard about it, probably. The
No,
only
no, no,
reason
no. That was a private moment shared among friends.
the only reason that Chuck Berry, and we have not mentioned him yet, the only reason he got busted is because he carried her across the state line, which is
Well,
a
you know,
violation of the Mann Act.
and right before I jump off the Miles Davis thing, Charlie Parker was playing with fire there because I don't think he may have known at the time, but Miles Davis was famously bisexual. So he may have complained for a moment, then he sat back and continued to
He may have done
watch
it.
the
He
show.
may have done it to throw some kind of shade at Miles Davis. He probably knew that, right? And he might even have.
How old was the girl?
The story does say so. We can, I guess, safely assume because nobody said it otherwise that she probably was of adult age.
Okay,
18 or older.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So there's really nothing.
She was obviously a very dedicated worker. I would definitely hire that girl for her to be able to endure those circumstances and continue to do her job. Yeah, that's a professional.
So you're really gonna be able to. What's that?
Who got worse by this, Miles Davis or the chick? I think it was Miles Davis.
It definitely wasn't Charlie Parker. That's for goddamn sure.
No. All right, go ahead, Bob.
So they hell, I lost the train of thought on that. Shannon ruined me. What Charlie Parker?
Yeah, I do that sometimes.
I enjoy it. No, but you think about it, and the fact that someone like that, right? And just they do it wherever it's about a tenet of their personality. And some people have crazy genius, and some people exhibit behavior that we might find objectionable. I definitely find underage women being forced to be objectionable, and they might let them get away with it at times. There's people that may feel that there's a need to perpetuate artistic behavior or whatever. But in my opinion, if it goes like all that, then jail is probably where they need to be.
And it's exactly where only Chuck Berry went, right?
Oh yeah, well, see, that's the reason I found the Charlie Parker story interesting, because in the South they would have figured out any way they could to put them guys in jail.
So how many Chuck Berry albums did we miss out on because he carried that girl across the state line? Two,
no
three.
Telling. 2 or 3.
I mean, were they really at that point in his career? Were they going to be great albums?
Yeah, but I mean,
well, I don't know. When he came out of prison, one of the first things he did was My Dingling. So yeah, they were going to be awesome.
So we were spared a couple of years of My Dingling.
Man,
my dingling was coming. Not one way or the other. It was coming. It just wasn't. We had to wait a couple of years for it.
And you know what? He did not write that song, but he made it great. The original version was written by Fats Domino, one of his colleagues that was in his band. And I've heard it, and it was terrible. But in Chuck Berry's studio version of it's terrible. But the live version he did in England, it's a fucking classic.
Oh yeah, I've got a 45 of that actually.
Oh, it's fucking awesome. You know, the first time I heard that was on. I'm trying to remember the company. I guess it was Tel or whatever record company was doing the various artist shit in the 70s. It was called Funky Favorites, and it had
that was K-Tel Records.
Yes, sir. No, sorry. I'm wrong. It was Ronco. I know Bob remembers Ronco.
Man, and all of those compilation records, they're all collector's items now.
I know.
Because there's some really, really good music on some of those compilations.
Yeah,
a lot of them don't have the
original
original
song that you can't find anymore.
Yup.
And there are a lot of them aren't the original artists and were presented as being that. Did you know that?
The one I heard, My Dingling, was definitely Chuck, though.
Yeah. That was definitely vintage Chuck.
And Monster Mash was definitely Frankenstein's Dr. Frankenstein.
I love the Monster Mash, but if you look at a KTL record, if you look at a KTL record and you see how the grooves are cut, so they can put those extra many songs on it, the fidelity of them is awful. And I've got a bunch of them. I've got whole country compilations from 1973 and stuff like that because I'm a Goodwill. I left thrift stores. I'm in and out of Goodwills.
Yeah, but how do you find albums, like good albums at Goodwill anymore? Because, hell, they got people picking through them now.
You go through them, it's just gospel albums that's left.
Yeah.
But
you get lucky every now and then.
The Blackwood Brothers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, do y'all remember the song Beep Beep?
Oh, yeah. I haven't heard about that one in forever.
Marilyn Manson sampled that shit.
He did.
And it was there. I heard it.
It was definitely there.
All right, guys. So did we cover everybody? Talk about Michael Jackson right out of the gate, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any other musicians? Okay, so
we could talk about Katy Perry.
By the way, there is one reverse. Actually, there was one woman on the list. I don't remember who she was, though.
Oh, who cares about her? I didn't recognize her.
There is actually one reverse case, and it's Loretta Lynn. Loretta Lynn was like 13 or 14 when she met up with Dew Lynn. Sorry, her name was Loretta Webb. She met up with her husband, which was out of the army, and he was like 22 or 23 years old, and she was like 14. She married. I mean, she had permission from her parents. She married him. So,
and he beat her. Her daddy said, "Don't beat her," and he beat her.
That's like 40 miles south.
He made it up to her by making sure that she made it in music.
Well, I mean, he at least did that for her.
Absolutely.
So, but then again, so did Ike Turner. So.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So the next time we do one of these, it'll be Ike and Tina, right?
Yeah, we can do a whole episode on that one. We'll just pull up What's Love Got to Do with It, and we'll just do a scene by scene commentary.
And let me just go ahead and say
kind of like Mystery Science Theater.
And this is a true story. Y'all gonna think I'm full of shit, but I will prove this. Tina Turner and Ike Turner were on the Sonny and Cher show.
I know what you're gonna say because I've seen it.
She had a bruise on her fucking arm that was shaped just like a fucking boot.
Like them boots that Ike was wearing.
Like a goddamn boot, and he was wearing fucking pointy boots.
Yep. And looking at her the whole time, making sure she hit them notes.
You know what? It's not funny, but it's a true
No, it's
story.
not. Well, it is funny because Tina Turner definitely won big in the end of that battle.
Yeah,
she decimated him. She not only destroyed his career, but she also destroyed his legacy. A lot of people we're sitting there talking about Ike Turner. You cannot bring up Ike Turner in 2023 without talking about that. You just can't. And so, there's your win right there, I guess.
Yeah, but she suffered a long time. Think of how tough that woman was, man.
Oh, man, I know it. I saw the legs in Private Dancer. Man, those legs were definitely, they'd been through a lot. A lot.
She's tough as hell, man. She was extraordinary talent, extraordinary person, extraordinary woman.
Can you imagine young in her prime Tina Turner walking into your bedroom and removing a bathrobe and her being completely naked?
It'd been hot beyond belief.
Have you seen the pictures of her when she was younger? Oh my God!